We are only 2 weeks away from the rehearsals for Eurovision. Let that sink in for a minute. This season has absolutely flown by, and it has been filled with bangers and ridiculous national finals and all kinds of chaos. Luckily, we still have just enough time to stage an intervention on Germany, and God knows they need it. As well as that, we have a potential winner in Switzerland and a witch/fairy sort of vibe from Poland. Point is, it's going to be a great video today, so let's get right into it. Before we get to that, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow me and my editor Jay on Twitter, and you can follow me on Instagram as well. In addition to that, if you can, please do support us on Patreon. You get the videos a day early and you help support our plans for next year, which we're already thinking about. We have all these plans, but no money to do it, so any support really is appreciated. With that, let's review the latest crimes committed by Germany in Eurovision. I actually used to live in Germany, in Regensburg. I lived in a suburb with a triple-barreled name for some reason. It was called Künfmühl-Siegertsdorf Neubrüll. What this means is, this one is personal for me. Like, I'm still just about fluent in German, and all of this just means that Germany and Eurovision is a personal struggle for me. I care about this one. Before we get to that, can I just say that Lord of the Lost were so robbed last year, did not deserve last place at all. There is probably something in Cha 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 hoovering up all the votes of people who are likely to vote for this kind of music, but come on. That did not deserve last place, and we haven't even talked about the fact that the jury's so-called professionals clearly didn't appreciate the highly technical nature of the growls that the lead singer was performing in the jury final. That actually wasn't the only thing that I was happy about when it came to Germany at Eurovision last year. I thought the national final format was pretty good. You had a televote that was directly proportional in terms of the number of points given to each act to the percentage of votes that they received. The songs weren't bad either. I thought Lord of the Lost were great. Patty Gurdy I thought was pretty good. I mean, her live performance, not amazing, but the studio version was great. The one thing I would say, the wildcard TikTok thing they did, which meant we ended up with Ike Hüftgold, that was terrible. I hated it, and I'm glad to say it is not coming back. Unfortunately, and as Germany always does when it finds something good in Eurovision, it immediately runs away from it, and they've done that by ruining the format of the national final as well. The voting system is still 50-50 between juries and televote, but now, once the scores are given, they are converted to a single set of 12 points through to 1 point. What that means, in effect, is that if you're fourth or lower with the juries, you could win the televote by a mile. It's still going to be pretty much impossible for you to win the selection. As for the TikTok wildcard, that is gone, as I said, and it's been replaced by a pre-show called Ich will zum ESC, which translates as I want to go to Eurovision. The winner was given a song and a place in the national final, but I don't really know why they did this when they then gave the poor guy a song which was so awful that it finished joint last. So the entire exercise seemed a bit of a waste of time to me. What of course was even sadder was that this song was honestly pretty much par for the course. The entire field was pretty middling in my opinion. Let's talk about it anyway, because we're gonna have to get through this somehow. We'll start with a former Eurovision participant in Max Mutzke, who returned with his attempt Forever Strong.
I don't know where we are going.
Max Mutzke actually has a pretty strong and quite long musical background, but it is clearly so out of date. Yes, he has a #1 album in Germany in 2005. Yes, he had a #1 single in 2004. That song was actually also Germany's Eurovision entry that year, and it did make it into the top 10. Stefan Raab played guitar on stage with Max in Istanbul, and this only goes to further the theory that the only person who can force Germany, drag them kicking and screaming to do something right in Eurovision in this century is Stefan Raab. I'm not going to go too much into this because a channel I'm a big fan of, Overthinking It, have just made an amazing video on this subject, so you can go and watch that after this one. What I will say is essentially all they have is Stefan Raab and sad Afro Ed Sheeran in Michael Schulte, and that is it. As for Max Mutzke, despite his past success in the contest, this song would get Germany absolutely nowhere. It is exceptionally dull, and the man cannot pull off a hat like Gustav can. While his voice is nice, the song is just offering nothing. It has zero distinguishing features. I listened to it several times preparing for this video. I still can't sing it to you. I do not remember it at all. It's bland, it's uninteresting, and it's exactly the type of thing I'd expect from Germany at Eurovision. So it's absolutely no wonder that both the televoters and the juries gave this 10 out of a possible 12 points. The lyrics fit right in with the rest of this. It's some of the most vapid, wishy-washy bullshit that I've seen in any national selection this year, to be honest. Now I'm done with that. Let's talk about the one ray of hope in this show. That came in the form of Rick with his song, Oh Boy. Oh boy, I need you. I feel the shadows of my I'm going to say this up front. If I was the chair of whatever committee was deciding which songs were going to get into the national final, I would have cancelled the whole thing on the spot after hearing this. I am absolutely astonished that they left this to chance and threw a real, genuine opportunity to get back in the top 10 away like it was nothing. Oh Boy is a gentle but powerful ballad, and it's written in a really accessible way. It leaves such a strong impression right from the first listen, and Rick's live vocals are absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe, listening to this, that this was a song that could represent Germany of all places. I couldn't believe there was a song in a German national final that was making me this emotional. As soon as this was released, Germany started flying up in the odds to win the contest, and that should tell you everything you need to know. Perhaps naively, I thought the German public and jury would come to the same conclusion that everyone else had and send Rick to Eurovision. But no, they didn't, because it's Germany. Seriously, why would you make me suffer like this? First there was the Rundfunkbeitrag, then there was the Regensburger Auslandbehörde, and now this. Seriously, I've had enough. Bureaucracy, not accepting card payments in restaurants, making me pay a TV license when I don't have a TV, making me queue for hours when I had to leave the country, signing me up against my will to the Jewish Association of Württemberg when I lived in Bavaria. I mean, what I will say about that one is it meant I didn't have to pay church taxes. But still, come on! The whole affair has made me want to tear my hair out, and I cannot believe that Germany backed the wrong horse on this one. Before we talk about the winner of this show, though, we do need to take a very weird detour through the oddest rumour of the season. That rumour was that this show would include the band Großstadtgeflüster with their song Ich kündige. The hilarious thing about this rumour is that it was totally baseless. There was never any reality, any even vague signs of smoke to indicate there could be a fire. I think everyone just kind of chose to believe it because this song is an absolute banger. Relatably, it's a song about quitting your job with no notice because you're absolutely sick of it. And you can do this because you never read the terms and conditions when you signed up to start. I imagine this is how Stefan Raab feels every time the German national broadcaster asks him to be part of the selection these days. Anyway, this song was all over the Twitter timeline for weeks and weeks, and the hype reached fever pitch to the point that the band actually took to Instagram to deny that they were involved and to make it clear that they were not participating in the show. Quite frankly, we should never have believed this one because we all know we cannot have nice things when it comes to Germany in Eurovision. That said, I will say I am quite sad that this song did not make it into the show. Moving swiftly on, let's talk about the winner. The winner of this year's show and the German entry at Eurovision 2024 was Isaak with his song Always on the Run. I'm always on the run. To be fair to Isaak, this is not a bad song, and he objectively has an amazing voice. Despite all the negativity in this segment so far, I do actually quite enjoy this. I listen to it from time to time. The problem is it is just so middle of the road. The first line of this song is literally, I am nothing but the average. That is not the tone you want to set at Eurovision. Obviously, the German jury and public absolutely leapt at this one, both giving it the maximum score of 12 points, thus ensuring that the seemingly unending stream of boring German Eurovision entries will continue to blaze a glorious path until at least next year. They got very scared after their attempt at being different last year and decided to just revert to form. Now, you can sing the absolute living daylights out of this song, and Isaak gives it his best shot, and he's an amazing vocalist. But none of this will stop it from being a Rag and Bone Man B-side. It's going to disappear in a final surrounded by songs that have much more about them, and it might avoid last place maybe, but that'll only be to climb to the lofty heights of like 20 seconds? Why am I so sure about this? The reason is this song gives me massive UK pre-2022 vibes. In fact, it gives me the exact same kind of vibe that My Last Breath by James Newman gave me. These songs actually kind of sound similar as well, come to think of it. That was a nice song that was very listenable, it was well executed, along the same lines as this one. But it was also a song that was never ever going to get remotely close to the left-hand side of the scoreboard. Overall, Germany, I have a few core messages. Number one, please scrap the national final. You cannot trust the viewership of this show, and you cannot trust the juries. Number two, if you're insisting on keeping it, at least change the voting format back to last year. And most importantly, why on earth don't you have the links in the music industry so that when something like Ich Kündige is coming, you sniff it out and you go and approach these artists and ask them if they'd like to participate in Eurovision? I'm not just saying this because there's one example. There is more. They previously had the same problem with Electric Callboy. The thing that was most maddening about this is the German broadcaster has given wildcards to songs before. They gave it to Sisters, who ended up actually winning the show in 2019 and going to Eurovision with a song that was the nothing burger to end all nothing burgers, and deservedly got 0 points from the televote that year.
I'm sorry, 0 points.
You can't expect to catch everything, but you have to put the building blocks in place. It's clear that right now, the German music industry does not feel that Eurovision is a respected route for established musicians to take. Right now, everyone thinks it's toxic, and given the last few years, with the exception of Lord of the Lost, they were robbed, as I said, it's absolutely no surprise that that is the case. Much like with the UK, there is zero excuse for Germany to be this useless. This is a country with more than 70 million people, with a thriving music industry, and it is time that they start leveraging that. If they don't, it's going to be far more years of last place finishes and disappointment. Stop blaming everyone else, look at yourselves in the mirror and sort it out. Let's move on. It's lucky that I'm actually going to be really positive about everything else in this video because seriously, sweet Jesus, Germany. Moving eastwards, Poland is up next. Thankfully, they have their shit together slightly more than the Germans do. Last year, I absolutely slammed Poland's national selection and I said that they should go internal. Honestly, scrap it. Scrap it and go internal because this was a disaster. The whole thing was a farce. It felt like a sham. Whether it was or not, that's what it felt like, and the reputation of it is damaged as a result. This is kind of what they've done, but not quite. The system is actually now pretty unique in that while it was essentially internal, we ended up knowing all of the songs that were competing to be the representative well ahead of time. We also know the full jury ranking of how the songs finished. That means we know that missing out on being the Eurovision entry by an absolute whisker was the singer Justyna Steczkowska with her song Witcher Taro Horror. Incidentally, I've actually known about Justyna for a long time, not from Eurovision initially, but actually from a fan contest over on the ESC United forums. A friend of mine who absolutely adored Justyna Steczkowska sent her to this contest 12 separate times. Meanwhile, I participated a total of 113 times, and I managed to win exactly once. You are listening to the taste and opinions of a man who cannot even win a Eurovision fan contest. However, one thing it did give me was an excellent knowledge of Mongolian throat singing. I'm not going to get too far off track though, because I will just completely get lost. So let's focus in on Justyna and on her song. This one is very much the witch that got away in an extremely witchy year between Bambi Thug and Raven and everything else. This was also what most people had assumed would win the selection. With Justyna's reputation in Poland, it felt like a bit of a shoo-in. This is an extremely dramatic piece of anthemic pop. It's very Eurovision and it showcases Justyna's vocal ability well. Her voice has a lot of really interesting, unique traits, and she makes sure to bring them in, especially in the pre-chorus. The other thing I want to highlight here is that Justyna is 51 and she is still singing flawlessly while dancing like this. I'm not sure I love the dance moves themselves. It feels a bit like she's doing too much for me, but I find the fact that she can do it at that age extremely impressive. I am honestly a little bit sad that we're not going to see this at Eurovision because I actually really enjoy it. I think it's a really memorable song, and I'm pretty confident we would have seen an amazing live performance from Justyna as well. At the same time, I am a fan of the actual winner of this pre-selection too, so I'm not too mad about it. Let's talk about that winner, which was Luna, with her song, The Tower. I'm the one who builds the tower. I'm the one who holds the power. We are firmly in the world of pop here, but do not let that fool you into thinking that this song is generic, because it is absolutely not. Of all the pop songs this year, I would say this one is probably the most modern. There's actually a lot to like about this, and I have to say the song's production really makes it feel like a bit of a warm hug, which is a really nice and kind of unusual feeling for a song in this genre. It's so nicely done and creates this hopeful, optimistic mood which matches the intended message of the song. That is that we all have the ability to use our inner strength to grow as people. I think this is definitely helped by the fact that this song is in a major key, whereas the vast majority of Eurovision pop songs, and in fact the majority of Eurovision songs in general, are now sung in a minor key. Right from the outset, that puts this at odds with other pop songs of a similar tempo, and that gives it something that makes it stand out. I do think there is more of a place for this style of modern pop music than what we have seen at Eurovision to this point. I was trying to think of examples of past songs in a similar style, and the best match I could get was Sebi by Jala Gasper in 2019, and even that isn't really a perfect match. That uniqueness is definitely going to play to Luna's advantage, and there are other factors which are going to give her a boost as well. We don't really need to think about whether this song is going to qualify, because since Poland returned in 2014, every single year except for 2021, they have qualified with the public vote. With 100% public vote semis, that puts them at a huge, huge advantage. Beyond that though, it's when we get to the final that the forecast becomes pretty difficult. That televoting advantage is still going to exist, so I think we can rule out Poland languishing around the bottom places. However, how high it gets is kind of difficult as well. I can't see the song in the top 10 definitely, but I could see it maybe getting to the high teens, 12th, 13th, that kind of range. It does have some jury appeal, and Luna's vocals are really unique. That could give it an edge over songs in a similar style. That said, we are lacking in the drama or the show-stopping moment that pushes this to the next level, and I'm struggling to see how they would integrate it in this song without making it feel disjointed. We will of course find out very soon whether there is any drama or any hidden surprise that they've got waiting for us, but right now I just can't really see it. One thing that's important to say is 12th, 13th, 14th, that kind of result would still be a big success in my opinion for Luna personally. The reason I say that is that this really feels like a potential launchpad for her career. She's an artist that produces music that is accessible, but it's new and it's different. This song will have international appeal, and I'm sure her subsequent releases are going to have that appeal as well. Ultimately, regardless of where she ends up on the scoreboard, her career prospects will come out as the real winner. From spiritual winners to actual winners, I have been so excited to talk about this song this season, and we finally get the chance to do it. It's time to talk about Switzerland. Switzerland have chosen Nemo with their song, The Code. I went to hell and back to find myself on track. Firstly, I want to thank my friend MJ. You can go follow her on Twitter. Go do that now. She really helped me with this section and pointed me in a few directions that really opened up a whole bunch of stuff. So she's amazing. Thank you, MJ. You're the best. Secondly, I want to promise right now, there will be no fish-related jokes in this section. They have been done to death on Twitter, and if I see that, inshallah, they find the meme one more time on Twitter, I'm going to go insane. So please, for the love of God, just stop. Moving away from Nemo the fish and talking about Nemo the artist, they first broke out onto the scene in Switzerland in 2015 and had a platinum selling single in the country with Do in 2017. The thing that is really crazy to me is that they were only 15 when they started releasing music. That means even now, 9 years on, at the age of 24, they've released 4 EPs and 20 singles. For someone at that age, that is a pretty impressive track record. Nemo came out as non-binary towards the end of 2023. They then followed this up with their single, This Body, which, as we can see from the lyrics of the song, paints a pretty bleak picture. It deals with the yearning to have a body that matches the way that Nemo feels inside. But it's clear from the way it's written, Nemo doesn't feel that that's the case. I'm going to come back to this song in a minute because it's important for the story I'm going to tell, but I want to put that in your mind now. Put a pin in it, we'll be back here in a second. When it comes to Eurovision, Nemo essentially went to the genre machine, and when asked which genres they would like in their Eurovision song, they simply responded, yes. This has rap, it has drum and bass, it has pop, and it has opera. If I hadn't heard this song and you listed out those genres to me, I would think oh my god, this song is going to be a complete disaster. However, one listen alone to this song will show you that is absolutely not the case, because it all comes together beautifully. Do you want a catchy, poppy drum and bass chorus? You got it. Do you want dramatic, big operatic notes everywhere? Yeah, of course you can have that. Do you want a rap verse that is kind of giving Plan B, She Said kind of vibes? Absolutely. Why not? It's so impressive that despite the fact that the genres for this song sound like a Rachel Green half shepherd's pie, half trifle, this fits really well. As Joey says, pop, good. Rap, good. Opera, good.
What's not to like? Custard, good. Jam, good. Meat, good.
My aforementioned friend MJ has actually pointed out to me as well that the genres of the song really fit the subject matter. This doesn't really fit into any one box, and Nemo feels much the same way about themselves. Much like this body before, the code deals with the theme of gender dysphoria, of not feeling like you match the body that you're in. It talks about Nemo's experience as a non-binary person in a pretty binary world. What's really striking though is that despite the fact these songs were released just a couple of months apart, the tone is radically different. This body paints a picture of someone who is not at peace with themselves at all. Between lines like "this body is a doubt creeping in my mind" and "how I wish I had a body to call home," it's clear that it speaks to the dysphoria that Nemo is feeling. The song is slow, it's yearning, and its instrumentation is sparse. The code is the complete opposite of this. The song is clearly about someone who has begun to make peace with themselves. It doesn't take much of an analysis to guess that somewhere between the O's and ones, "that's where I found my kingdom come," is about a non-binary person who is finding their peace in being non-binary. For those who aren't aware, binary code consists purely of, you guessed it, zeros and ones. The same message is clear in lines like "I just gave it some time, now I found paradise." The song is fast and it's frantic and at times foreboding, but it's so much more assertive, and it feels like Nemo has reached a kind of triumphant moment. You can see the same contrast in the styling between this and this body. In this body, Nemo spends the entire video in an androgynous blue outfit decorated with tears. No prizes for guessing what the message is there. Meanwhile, in the code, Nemo runs through a crowded train. Their outfit changes from carriage to carriage before finally being shown smiling in an empty carriage in the last few seconds. It's as if they've gone through different stages of chaos and evolution, surrounded by noise before finally finding their true selves. And finding peace as well in the process. Even though most listeners will hear the code and are much less likely to hear this body, I think they actually go really nicely together, and one makes the message of the other so much stronger. This body has actually really made me appreciate the code even more than I already did. It gives you a deeper understanding of Nemo's journey and where they've come from, and it shows that in a relatively short period of time since coming out as non-binary, which was only in November 2023, they've become so much more comfortable with themselves. The beauty of this song and the beauty of this as a Eurovision entry is that it's still amazing without all of this context. The casual viewer might not read between the lines and see all of this, but they will still really enjoy it. On the flip side, people struggling with their gender identity are going to understand what this is about instantly from the very first listen. This kind of representation in mass media can make a massive difference to people who are having these struggles but live in countries where that is not necessarily what they see in their home media. Just for one night, they get to see that celebrated, and they get to see a little bit of themselves on the European stage. In case it wasn't obvious from everything I've already said, I am super excited about this as a Eurovision entry. I think it could win the whole thing, and it's amazing. I cannot wait to see it live in Malmo. We've already seen from live performances at pre-parties and on Swiss TV that Nemo can execute the song live as well. The operatic notes are perfect. The rap sounds amazing in live, just as it does in the studio version. The dramatic nature of this and the uniqueness of the vocals and the fact it's so well executed live give this boundless potential, and potentially the ability to take the contest to Switzerland again next year. All of this together means I am far from alone in this opinion, and Switzerland right now is the runaway leader in the odds. Well, maybe not runaway, but it's clear, okay? It's clear of everyone else by some distance. This is one of, if not the standout of this Eurovision year, and it would be an extremely worthy Eurovision winner. One question though, Nemo has been tweeting about the fact that they are trying to get onto the Eurovision iceberg this year. This means they may have watched my Eurovision Iceberg 2023 3 explained videos. And if any of you get the chance, please ask them if this is the case, because I will be fangirling so hard. If you haven't watched those iceberg videos yet, now is actually a really good time to do it, because we have reached the end for this week. There is one more video in this series coming next Friday. Don't worry though, because we are still going to be doing weekly videos every single week until the week after the contest. For now, go watch those iceberg videos, because we went to hell and back trying to make them. Thanks for watching, take care, and I will see you again in 7 days.